Hey guys! So today I'm going to be talking about some of the plants that are on my wish list. This is definitely not the full list. These are just a few of the ones that I have wanted for a while now. I thought this would be a fun video to make, just sharing with you guys a few of the plants that I have been eyeing for quite a bit now. And not all of these plants are quote unquote rare plants. Honestly, some of my favorite houseplants ever are pretty basic, well-known plants. I think sometimes common household plants get a lot of hate just because they're more prevalent, which I think is kind of unfair. Another sidebar, I never really liked the term rare plants. I think when people refer to rare houseplants, they're actually referring to their commercial rarity. So, for example, a plant that may be really rare in America may be super common in England or in another part of the world. So, it's entirely dependent on where you live and if there's already a demand or a supply for that plant in that area. So, rare plants, I feel like, don't really exist. It's entirely dependent on your location, on the plant industry. At the end of the day, the plant industry is a business that is trying to make money, and if they see a plant that is in really high demand, all of a sudden that plant is going to skyrocket in price, which I just sometimes think it's ridiculous seeing plants go for $200 or even more. Not judging anyone who's going to spend that much on a plant. I'm just saying that rarity is very subjective when it comes to plants. I'm clearly very fascinated by this business side of the plant world. If you're like me and this stuff really fascinates you, I would definitely recommend you to check out Kaylee Ellen. She has a YouTube channel where she has a series called the Rare Plant Index, and she dives into all of this, talking about the rarity of certain plants. Definitely a very interesting watch. Also, another little preface, I know that this video might come off as a very consumerist type of video, and honestly, I'm not even in such a hurry to buy any of these plants that I'm going to mention. If I see one or come across one of these plants one day and they're not ridiculously priced, yes, I might think about it, but I'm not really in a rush to go out and drop all this money on all these plants. Honestly, my dream is to just make a bunch of plant friends and to trade plants with those people. That just sounds so wholesome. I am also propagating a ton of my plants right now, so I definitely plan to give them away to some friends or to trade for other plants. So definitely, if you're ever interested in trading a plant, let me know, because I would definitely love to do that. I have all of my wish list plants written down here on my phone, so I'm just going to be going through them one by one. The first plants on my list are Hoyas. I'm honestly pretty new to the Hoya game. I don't know what took me so long. I got my first Hoya carry a few weeks ago, and I don't know why I never had any Hoyas before. They're so unique looking. I love the texture of their leaves. They're kind of like that rubber plant waxy feeling, and they're so easy to take care of. They don't require much water. They're not fussy at all. They're very hardy, non-fussy kind of plants. So now I naturally want to purchase all of the Hoyas. One that I have been eyeballing a lot is the Hoya carnosa Wilbur Graves. Honestly, I'm probably going to be butchering all of these names, so I apologize in advance. I just love how it looks. I love the different variegation. I love the fact that it's not even like a very consistent variegation. It's kind of all over the place. It honestly just looks like if you just got a leaf and splashed paint on it, which I love that effect. So definitely I will be on the lookout for these plants. The next plant on my list, I think, is a pretty popular Hoya. I've seen quite a few people that I know have it, and that is the Hoya abovata. I really like the circular look of the leaves. It kind of reminds me of the Pilea peperomatus. I also like the fact that it's kind of a trailing plant. I really love trailing plants. I love putting them on high shelves or bookcases and just seeing them, the foliage just kind of drape down. Ugh, so beautiful. I love this plant. It also has kind of like a light splash variegation thing going on. And also, since I have had Hoyas before, I know relatively how to take care of them, so I know that they're not fussy plants. Honestly, the idea of purchasing a really expensive plant that I don't know how to care for just stresses me out. I think this is also why I would never spend like $100 on a plant, because I would probably just be more stressed out about that plant dying and wasting that $100 versus just buying 10 plants with that money, and if one of them dies, it's not too big of a deal. I can just repurchase it. I think if you know that purchasing a plant is going to add more stress to your life, it's most likely not worth it. I buy plants to de-stress my life, not to add more stress, so I would pass on that. The next plant on my list is one that I think everyone is familiar with. It's probably the it plant right now. I hate saying that. It's definitely very well known. It's called a fiddle leaf fig. I have seen this plant all over Instagram. So many people that I know have it. Honestly, I get it. It's a beautiful plant. I have heard that it's a little bit fussy sometimes. I've heard that the leaves sometimes just fall off and there's not really much you can do about it. And apparently it's also kind of hard to propagate. I'm not too sure. But I do really like this plant. I know exactly where I would put it if I got one of those really tall plants. It is pretty pricey. I think the really tall ones, like the tree looking ones, which I mean, it's a fiddle leaf tree. Who doesn't want a freaking tree in their house? That's just crazy. But I've seen those really tall ones go for like $200, which I think is a little bit too much. So I'm honestly considering just buying a smaller one that's cheaper and growing it into a taller one. But I don't know. I guess I'll have to wait and see if I find a cheaper one, or maybe I'll just bite the bullet and buy a medium-sized tree. I don't know. The next plant on my list is called a Musa Ai. This plant, genuinely, when I first saw it, I thought it was a fake plant. I thought there's no way that this is a real plant, but it just has the most stunning variegation. It looks like someone watercolored the leaves, and every single time I see this plant, I'm amazed that it's a real plant. Just look at those leaves. It has that dark green, light green, the kind of seafoam color, and then the white. It's just so stunning. I would definitely love to own this plant at one point. And someone correct me if I'm wrong. I think this plant is also referred to as the striped banana because it, I guess, is from the banana leaf group and eventually can grow bananas. That means that those leaves probably grow up pretty large. I love the variation. This is one that I don't really know how much it's going for right now. I'm assuming a lot, and it probably would be a plant that if I spent that much on, I would be so stressed about it and I would just be scared of killing it. The next plant on my list is the Ripsalis paradoxa. This is one that I've also seen quite a bit around just the plant community. I think this is a plant that you either love or you hate. I definitely love this plant. I think it just looks so weird, and I love weird looking plants. I love how it looks like it's kind of twisting, almost like it's braided individually. I just love this plant. I know I would definitely have it hanging and just let all of those beautiful foliage just drape down and look all funky and weird. I do have a plant that looks a little bit similar to this. It's the mouse tail cactus, and I definitely just love the look of these type of plants. So definitely this has stayed on my list for quite a bit. The next plant on my list is a Scindapsus Truby Moonlight. The Scindapsus pictus, or the silver satin, is one that is a little bit more popular from that same family of plants. This one I think is becoming a little bit more popular recently. I just love how the foliage looks. That kind of seafoam light green is one of my all-time favorite colors in plants. Definitely when I see a plant in that color, I'm super drawn towards it. And I've never actually felt the foliage on this plant, but if it's similar to the Scindapsus pictus, that means that it's kind of a soft, satiny feel, which I love leaves that have the softest feel to them. Definitely, this has been on my list. The next plant on my list, I think, is such a cool plant. I've only seen a few people actually post about this plant. It's a Philodendron Majesty. This is just such a cool plant. If you look at the leaves, they're essentially like a matte black, which honestly, up until I learned about this plant, I didn't know that black foliage was a thing. But I'm super into it. I would love to have a black foliage type of plant. I just think it's so unique, so cool. I've never seen a plant in person like this. So I'm very curious about just how this plant is. If you look at the picture, it looks like not all of the leaves are that black color. They maybe start out green and then mature into that black, or maybe it's just, I guess, not a consistent or stable color in the plant. And the underside of those plants are also this really pretty burgundy color. This plant just puts me in the fall or Halloween mood, which is coming up and we could all use more of. So definitely would love to own this plant at some point. You know, if anyone has one of these and wants to trade with me for probably a plant that is not as cool as this, but definitely let me know, because I would love to own this plant. The next plant on my list is a Ficus shiverna. This also has that kind of speckled variegated color on their leaves. I think it's so gorgeous and it just looks like it was painted on. Honestly, my favorite kinds of plants, I think, are the ones that look like they've been painted or just are shaped really weirdly, if that makes sense. So I know that this was a little bit more of a random video than my other ones. I just kind of wanted to share what some of my current wish list plants are. Maybe I made your plant wish list a little bit longer too. If not, definitely let me know what plants you have been wanting for a while now, or let me know if you like some of the plants that I mentioned or if you absolutely hate them. That's fine too. Not all plants are for everyone. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!